I'm encouraged that in Africa we are thinking of contributing and investing in our own future. We can really harness our resources and be agents of development.
We do have the money. It is here. $700 billion in one room is a lot of money. But suppose we all committed to putting aside 1% to certain specific investments.
$700 billion in one room. It's a mind-boggling figure when you think about it and what it could do for a nation or even an entire continent. By the end of 2023, pension funds across Africa collectively held more than $700 billion. Capital that, if strategically deployed, could scale startups, strengthen the informal sector, and boost domestic savings. It's this potential that inspired the All Africa Pension Summit, a gathering of pension funds, development partners, private equity firms, and key stakeholders determined to find ways to put this capital to work. I had a fascinating conversation with the host of the summit, NSSF Uganda's Managing Director, Patrick Ayota, on balancing risk and reward, engaging Gen Z in pension systems, and co-creating solutions that deliver lasting impact. The rallying call and slogan and figure is this $700 billion in one room.
Yes.
What's the significance of this particular figure as all these players come to the table?
We do have the money. It is here. $700 billion in one room is a lot of money. But suppose we all committed to putting aside 1% to certain specific investments. That's $7 billion. Now, the beauty of it is not the $7 billion by itself that makes sense. It's now you can leverage that $7 billion to bring in another $20, $30 billion. Because right now, for the longest time, as Africans, we are going to the international lenders or donors empty-handed. So I need a road, it's going to cost me $300 million. Please give me the $300 million. But now we can say, hey, I need $300 million, but I have $50 million. That's a different conversation to have.
Right.
It helps put the African on the table to negotiate. It helps make that development agenda my responsibility. And we don't delegate, outsource that responsibility to somebody else. So that conversation that we bring together pension funds, and we're telling most of this is sitting with you pension funds, step up the table and say, we will commit something for my own economy. If there's a pooling of funds, I will commit to that pooling of funds. So we begin to have the voice and the responsibility to help develop the country.
Right. And when you say that, the posture we usually see with most pension funds and their managers is to be very conservative.
Yes.
They don't want to lose money, and that's why they'll go for trusted, trusted places to put their money. So the conversations you're saying are asking to have a larger appetite in risk, so to speak.
Actually, let me tell you, there's a fallacy that if I invest in the traditional, I won't lose money. That's a fallacy. Ghana, during the Euro crisis, most of their investments were in government bonds. And something that should happen, government bonds should not default. Did. We invested a lot in our neighboring country, Kenya. Traditional things. Nairobi Stock Exchange is one of the most active exchanges in the country. Kenya bonds, we're the #1 bond holder in Kenya, non-Kenyan bond holder for Kenya. But when they had the currency crisis, we took currency losses here. So it's a fallacy thinking we won't have a loss. The only thing is, you take a bit of a different posture. Let me give you an example that I said. So NSF Uganda, we wanted to do something. We realized that when we look at the trajectory of our benefit payments, the rate at which we were paying benefits was exceeding the rate at which contributions were coming in. And you could actually follow that, and you could see it catching up. By 2031, we're paying more benefits than contributions, which meant we're beginning to die. Because when benefits exceed contributions, your balance sheet begins to shrink. By 2042, we're dead. So we needed to say we can't be bystanders. We need to think about investing where I need to create new contributions. By creating new members, where they're going to come from, create new jobs.
the continent, by and large, is driven by an informal economy. So how is NSSF Uganda or other pension funds that will be coming to the summit, how should they think about getting this particular informal economy into the pension system?
Certain myths. And Uganda is a very interesting example. Even the definition of informal, we got it wrong. So, for example, one of the most chaotic sectors in Uganda is the border borders. Mm-hmm. When you look at the way they're riding bicycles, you can see there is no order in that whole sector until you go to their parking stations, their landing points, and realize they have a president, they have a secretary, they've got a treasurer.
Fully organized.
Each of these posts they pick up across the country, they organize, and they go at the national level, and so they organize. What do we mean they're informal? Because they're not registered with who? Mm-hmm. They're registered with their very team. So it has kind of opened up our eyes that, wait a minute, this thing of informality has just put blinders on us. Mm-hmm. You go in the villages and you'll find village women have organized themselves in circles. Register for that circle. They're saving a certain amount of money. The question is, why are we thinking that they can't save with you? So we open up and say, it was a pilot for us. How can I get that market vendor to save with me? Make it convenient for them, where you can bring value to them. Now, I remember what I told you when we began funding early stage startup. We funded 438 of them within 4 years, created 38,000 jobs. Now the savings of them is almost $1 million. And surprised us because we're not thinking we'll hit $1 million now. We think about $1 million within the next 5 years. It works. So when we made it convenient and went and explained what we're doing, in 11 months, we rolled this out in November 2024. Minimum amount is 5,000 Uganda shillings, $1.50. These are the numbers of yesterday. 43,000 new accounts opened. They've saved $33 billion, almost $10 million. I said, but from where? The informal sector. The thing is, can they trust you enough? So a financial institution, same as a pension institution, trust is a currency. And the test of the currency is not from the mandatory side, because the law forces them to save with you. The test of the currency and the trust is that voluntary saver. Then when he has or she has a choice, she chose you.
Right.
A testament to that. So how do you build that and make it work?
Let's talk about these quote-unquote would-be members. You've spoken about different sectors. We looked at what's happening in the border area, agriculture as well. Yeah. I want us to look at it generationally.
Yes.
Let's talk about this force across the continent known as Gen Z.
Yeah.
Very young, and they think about pensions. They think 50 years from now, probably don't need it. What's your interaction with this particular demographic? How are you encouraging them to save?
Don't give them a retirement account. Give them a simple saving product, but with a behavioral change. So what we did in NSF, we said, okay, you can save with us voluntarily, but you have a 1-year lockout period. It will be earning this, you'll be earning this interest and so on. And the peer group is important. What we discovered is, instead of talking to the border one-on-one, talk to their leaders. And those leaders are the ones who become your voices. To tell them, it's good for you to save. My friend, one of these, you have a wedding next year. Save now. And the idea is hopefully it becomes a habit.
Right. Right. There's something interesting also when you look at the Pension Summit and what it's geared at in terms of where we deploy this particular capital. We've looked at roads that can be built, dams that can be built. And I just had a question there, because as you look at what's happening in the global economy, we're also seeing a lot of investment going into tech, into data centers that are, powering countries. Some countries, a large part of their GDP is coming from, infrastructure like that. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Have we thought about probably deploying some of this capital and leapfrogging to build such infrastructure?
Africa is a bit of a contradiction in a number of ways. Mm-hmm. And East Africa is a good one, a very good example of how glaringly those contradictions are. Mm-hmm. So I visit my daughter, she's in the US as a student, and she's writing a check to pay. Her name is Naomi. I said, Naomi, how can you do this backward? You still write checks? Because I don't know the last time I wrote a check. Every time I need to pay something, I just get on my phone and I pay for it. I go shopping. I mean, it was Soviet. We're so ahead of them. But what we've not done is the gap between that and where we are in certain parts. You're right. Data centers, we haven't invested. The amount of resourcing for a data center is amazing. Now, and this is where some of the places you almost have to have, when you look at the US, what they've done, the investment they're making, supporting the private sector, the Apples and so on, is massive. Here, for something like that, the private sector can do it right away. You can do a mini one. You can do a mini blockchain, just for a closed blockchain for NSSF. But have to wait for URA to be ready before we can link those, those blockchains. But as long as you begin to work towards that, the good thing is, as long as we don't lose sight of agriculture and we can eat, the rest become a luxury. In fact, that has been our savior. However bad it is, we can eat.
You're not going hungry.
I'm not going hungry. That is the savior. I can then catch up with the rest of the things. So I think for me, I think if we focus on make sure that we are self-sufficient on food.
But us to move it forward and look at your expectation of the summit as well,
Yes.
as all of these players come. We're talking about development partners, government in the room, your fellow pension funds as well. What conversations do you expect to take place, and what is the output at the end of the 3 days?
So the thing that may hope comes of the conversation, first of all, is that the pension funds can just open up their eyes. We can think differently, guys. We don't have to think the same way. Let's think differently. What can we really do? How does Ethiopia build that massive dam without foreign money? Do you know what Ethiopians feel today? I think those guys think they can do anything in this, in this world to build that massive dam with their own money. If we can even get to that point where we begin to see that the $700 billion, oh my goodness, what an opportunity. Then it allows us to open our eyes to things we can do. That's mindset change will be amazing. And then for the other thing, we have examples we're going to talk about is partnerships that have worked. We have examples. This is co-investing in startups. We had a partner, Mastercard Foundation. And we know the reason why it worked. There were certain things we were able to do with them, the things we challenged them on. And we co-created together. So we know examples. So the partnership that works is not that the NGO comes and tells you, this is what you ought to do. No. That won't work. So it is an example where we are learning from each other so that even the DFI knows, okay, guys, maybe I can change the way I've been doing my approach so that we can actually apply it and make it work.
A shift in mindset. That's the ultimate lever for change. My conversation with Patrick Ayota leads us to our first break. After the break, we explore international models and speak to Leonard Zulu, the UN Resident Coordinator in Uganda, on the UN's role in expanding pension coverage and so much more. Don't go too far. You're watching State of Africa. Welcome back. You're watching State of Africa. Now today, we're exploring pensions and investments as the continent gears up for the All Africa Pension Summit happening in Uganda from November 5th to the 7th. I also sat down with Leonard Zulu, the UN Resident Coordinator in Uganda. We discussed inclusive pension coverage, innovation, and how partnerships can strengthen pension systems across Africa. We've heard 700 billion in a room. Your account was 1.3 trillion. And I want us to distill this to one who's contributing their pensions, a pension member of any NSSF organization, Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda. What does this mean for them? Let's start it from there, because they hear these big numbers and they're like, how does that translate to my life and impact to what I'm doing? How should they understand that connection?
Well, the contributor to the pension funds is interested in making sure that their money that they are contributing monthly is secure and safe, and that the pension fund, when the time comes, will pay out the pension fund, the pension that they are entitled to on a monthly basis. So the ordinary person will want to know that, is my money safe? Is my money being invested in the right place? Is it able to pay out my pension when I'm entitled to the benefit? So that's what the contributor is interested in. And the contributor will be assured that the resources are available on the continent in each country, and the volume is impressive, as you've mentioned. The exact figure is not important, but it's the scale, the size of the funds that may be available. It's not all of it that will be invested. I think the experts will tell you that it's a small percentage of the pension pension funds that have been collected from the contributors that will be invested, and not only in one item or infrastructure project, but in many, some short-term, some medium-term, some long-term, so that you have a diversified portfolio.
Right.
And my pension is secure with the pension fund that's administering my contributions. So I'm interested in knowing that the pension fund is healthy, that the managers are exercising their fiduciary duty and investing reasonably and wisely.
Right. I wanted to speak a bit also on it, being UN resident coordinator in Uganda. I wanted to look at the role the United Nations is playing in this as well, in terms of supporting inclusive pension coverage right across.
Yes.
What role is the UN playing in that regard?
Every Ugandan should be able to participate in the pension fund, no matter how modest their income is. And the pension fund here is doing tremendous work to be inclusive. Financial inclusion is something that the United Nations is promoting. We want to ensure that the pension fund is gender responsive. It does not discriminate. All members of the society are able to participate in the pension fund, no matter how small their contribution is. And I gave an example where a market trader in Kampala is contributing 15,000 shillings per day in 5,000 shilling tranches. I was told that by the managing director of the pension fund yesterday. And it was, I thought that was a very powerful story to hear that women, there's a deliberate effort to include women, to include older persons, to include everybody who wants to save for their future, for the future of their family as well.
How can these pension funds look at their partnerships or models so that they can actually ensure sustainability and impact as they deploy?
I also like the idea of maybe looking at market access for agricultural products. We are an agro-based industry, economy, where agriculture plays a main role in people's lives. So doing something there is also quite important. For example, a factory to make tomato paste, to use tomatoes as they come out of the fields as quickly as possible, because they're highly perishable. So if you want to manage post-harvest waste, having a canning factory that uses tomatoes at scale is a good thing. And then tomatoes are easy to grow by many people, especially those with modest incomes. So they will be able to participate in the agro-industrialization of a country such as Uganda. So that's good. So it has to be in areas that have been carefully identified, where there are bankable projects that are lucrative, that will bring good returns, and where the risk will be low as well.
Right.
So, and that we leave to the investment experts, who will be able to identify, carry out their market research, and make the right choices. And as the United Nations, we want to make sure that everybody in Uganda participates in the national development of Uganda. We want to help government bring in the 33% that are still outside the money economy into the money economy.
It's time for Africa to look inward, see how it can work together, get its own solutions. And you also spoke to the fact that we are past the point of aid. is now looking towards trade. And this isn't particularly new, and you've been talking about this.
Yes.
What really has been the stumbling block going from aid to trade, and how do we remedy that using, these pensions as a tool to, to get there?
I think we have really been looking at all sources of income, because to meet or to implement the sustainable development goals world over, we need $4 trillion. That's the funding gap. So you can't just look at official development assistance. You can't just look at the traditional sources of loans. You have to look at in all places, all sources. And one of the obvious ones is how about our own domestic resources? What's in our house already? Mm-hmm. Can we look into our own piggy bank and see what we can get from there in terms of capital? There's realization that priorities are changing. Our traditional development partners have got a lot of domestic priorities at home. And geopolitically, things are changing. People are looking more to their defense, to their security, to their social protection in their countries, right? So, but they haven't retreated 100%. The money is still there, but not in the same volume as it used to be like in the past. So I'm encouraged that in Africa we are thinking of contributing and investing in our own future, and not just looking for a handout for others to help us year in, year out. We are also saying that, no, we do have some money that we can contribute. And the resources are important and at scale. You have money in the pension funds. You have remittances coming from Africans in the diaspora. We have private savings in the banks where there's a substantial amount of money there. And then there's also public revenue mobilization, the tax that we are also mobilizing from the people. So we can make a lot we can make a great contribution. We can really harness our resources and have skin in the game ourselves and be agents of development.
One of the factors that I could say is quite catalytic is the current digital disruption we are seeing in every factor of what we're doing. Mm. How can these pension funds, as we go into this particular summit as well, look at innovation and digitalization to increase pension access? Yes. How should they be thinking about that going into the summit?
Well, we are thinking of also investing in our youth, the startups, the starting businesses, micro businesses, small and medium enterprises. A bit risky, but that's also another place that we can share the responsibility between pension funds and also the money that comes through the multilateral avenue, such as the United Nations, where we can put our resources together and help the youth entrepreneur start up a business and so on using technology. What's important is, of course, we have to do a technology needs assessment, and we are planning to help out with that. The United Nations Technology Bank will be coming to Uganda soon to carry out a needs assessment to find out what kind of innovative technology is required to leapfrog, as you were saying, and participate in today's economy. There's potential there. Youth unemployment is high, so we have to use technology, digitalization, artificial intelligence to bring them in at scale, in numbers, to do what they're best at, which is innovate. They're doing amazing things, the youngsters out there.
Right. As we conclude this, over the 3 days of that particular summit, conversation will be had deals will be struck. What will be your key indicator of success as you leave the summit?
I would like to see the various pension funds come together, pool their resources, agree to that, and then select bankable projects where they'll say that we will invest in project X or Y that not only benefits one country, but benefits a number of countries in Africa. Cross-border trade is important, especially for a country such as Uganda, that is a landlocked country. You need to really work with the neighbors surrounding Uganda to make sure that that investment that you're making really produces a high return. So collaboration will be important, cross-border trade will be important, cross-border deals will be important, whether it's electricity generation to supply more reliable electricity that will be inexpensive will be quite important.
If ever there was a time for Africa to look inward and build from within, it's now. With its young population and growing pools of domestic capital, the continent has the power to shape prosperity on its own terms and values. You've been watching State of Africa. Join the conversation on all Aladi social platforms. I'm Jeff Morte. Until next time, goodbye.